right next to Silksong, the second most awaited sequel of 2025 just released, Ghost of Yotei, finally giving us a standalone sequel to the masterpiece Ghost of Tsushima, which came out all the way back in 2020 during a, let's say, special time of our lives. Yet, it was one of the greatest experiences for many players on release and beyond, and had huge crowds waiting for a sequel from Sucker Punch, since the game mechanics, combat, story, and characters had delivered a wonderful performance. If you want a more detailed view on that, then feel free to watch my old Ghost of Tsushima review, by the way. So, now that it's finally out, we ask ourselves, can Ghost of Yotei compete with the greatness Tsushima delivered and give us more of that wonderful Ghost formula, or even perhaps some new takes on its gaming experience? Which is why I want to dedicate today's video to Ghost of Yotei and seeing for ourselves if it can fulfill all of our wet dreams. As always, if you enjoyed this video at any time and want to help out a small content creator, feel free to leave a like or comment down below to get my video up in the algorithm. Let's go! Ghost of Yotei takes us to the year 1603, into the lands of Ezo, an island located in northern Japan. Ezo, as beautiful and peaceful as it looks, has some serious problems. 6 of those to be exact, or in other words, the Yotei 6, which are a group of outlaws planning to take over Ezo and planning to become its new leaders by force. Now you might think to recognize a pattern with islands having to be rescued from cruel leaders by the game's main characters of the Ghost series, but Atsu doesn't give a damn about that. Instead, we are introduced to her being driven by a fuming rage inside her, connected to her self-given task, which is taking revenge on the Yotei 6 for her family, since every member got brutally murdered by them. Atsu is very fiery and badass, but at the same time often misunderstood and betrayed by the people around her, making the player feel furious about the way she is treated and the flaws in many people's personalities. At the same time, this makes players appreciate the beauty of the landscapes more, as it offers calmness and beauty in comparison. So story-wise, we already have a drawn contrast here to Tsushima, as we don't fight for others, we fight for our own reasons and beliefs. And we're not a loved son from a respected family, but rather a wild, misunderstood Onryo. This contrast is involved even further when taking a look at Atsu's character, who doesn't care about honor, traditions, or taught morals, at least not in a samurai kind of way. We especially experience this in the game's combat mechanics and playstyle. Instead of mostly facing enemies head-on with nothing but a sword, we stealth and trick our way through our enemies for most of the game's playtime using dual katanas, odachi, spear, kusarigama, bow, musket, and flintlock pistol. The different weapon types, you could say, act as a replacement for the stance system of Tsushima, but keep the essence of the rock paper scissors playstyle, as you still need to adjust your used weapons depending on the enemy you are facing. Weapons like the kusarigama, for example, allow easier shield breaks on shielded enemies, while katana and dual katana are more fit for sword-to-sword combat. And speaking of the combat system changes, we actually got a lot of small yet still very cool other changes as well, like disarm attacks, which are attacks that make you lose your weapon, leaving you with the choice of continuing the fight barehanded or searching for your lost weapon and trying to pick it back up. Thankfully, the player is not the only one able to be disarmed, since enemies can be disarmed as well, leaving them open for punishing attacks or allowing you to grab their lost weapon and throwing it at other enemies. It also seems Yotei took a tiny bit of an inspiration from Bloodborne's combat system, since a flintlock pistol can be used to deal big damage to the enemy's stance, making it possible to interrupt enemy attacks while building up their stance meter so they are stance broken easier. Beyond that, Yotei introduces a totally new mechanic that lets you fight alongside wolves during combat that, depending on how you skill them, may even save you from a deadly blow once per fight, and in general make fights with enemy crowds way more accessible. Wolves in the game, though, aren't the only things that can be upgraded. Via the skill tree format we were already familiar with, the effectiveness of weapons, stealth, HP recovery, special moves, dodging and countering can be improved. Alongside armors and charms, giving certain buffs to the player, we can build a big variety of different types of builds that is just as simple but straightforward as that of its predecessor. The game doesn't try to really do anything new here, except for the layout of the menu and some cool new armor designs. What is completely new though is the bounty mechanic Yotei implements. The higher your bounty grows during your playthrough, the more bounty hunters there will be on the lookout for you, and the more frequently encountering them will get. This also results into them placing traps and planning ambushes on you, which means the further you progress, the more dangerous the lands of Ezo become. What's very cool is that not only the player can be hunted for their bounty, but other criminals too. You come across wanted posters spread all over Ezo, giving you the opportunity to go on side quests to collect their bounty and relieve Ezo of some bad guys. Aside of things that make your journey more difficult, Yotei also implements more quality of life features. While the guiding wind is something we had already seen in Tsushima, Atsu in addition is able to play an instrument called the shamisen. And for those who remember, Sakai used to play an instrument in the older title as well, which could however only change the weather. Atsu here now can use various songs that are unlocked through certain NPC encounters and quests to guide her to undiscovered terrain nearby. Making the torturous checklist grind we all know too well from the Assassin's Creed series way easier and not as time consuming as it was before. Moreover, the player also doesn't need to rearrange their entire build if they want to switch in between them, since now there is the option of gear loadouts, which will allow you to pre-create and save your favorite builds. In terms of graphics and cinematics, the inspiration the game takes from the movies of the famous movie director Akira Kurosawa remained unchanged. Also still featuring the Kurosawa mode, in which you can play the game in black and white graphics. With an additional mode that allows you to play lo-fi music in the back for some reason. The world is beautiful, the animations are smooth, and the game manages to deliver something very similar to what Elden Ring does, the feeling of a truly open world where, when you see a big mountain or monument in the distance, you can actually go there and explore. So is Ghost of Yotei a good game and worth trying? Absolutely. Especially if you enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima and are hungry for more of that same experience. Because Ghost of Yotei does not reinvent the formula, or tries to deliver a completely new experience. Which you could see as negative, but really the question we need to ask ourselves here is, was there any need for big changes? Because why destroy a successful formula that already works very well instead of just adding to the already working ideas? Which is exactly what Yotei does. What does make Yotei worse for me than Tsushima, though, is the story. Sakai was facing the inner conflict of having to decide between taught morals and the value of the lives from an entire island. He stood between his loved uncle, who raised him in the way of the samurai, and the necessity of saving his loved uncle and his island by leaving those morals behind. That was wonderful, and in my opinion gave Jin so much more character than Atsu.
You have no honor, and you are a slave to it.
The biggest selling point of her story is supposed to be the act of revenge and the hatred inside her, that however finally has her come to the conclusion that revenge is bad. Which is a story that was already told a million times before. It's a little annoying to me that there isn't that much more to it, but we do have many characters that add more spice to the story because of the way they are written, which does compensate for that in a way. Make sure to tell me what you think about the game. Will you try it for yourself or have you tried it already? What are your thoughts on the game so far? Make sure to tell me down below in the comment section. But for now, all that's left for me to say is like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video and have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.